Okay, so in this video, I want to talk to you guys about the tone of voice. Um, the next way that we can tell ChatGPT to speak to us is how the tone of voice or the way in which it speaks an accent. And right now, the actual voice agents cannot do accents, but ChatGPT can write in any accent. It can write in gibberish. It can write in languages. I have personally used ChatGPT to translate and have full conversations in French, Italian, and Spanish thus far, and it is perfectly fluent. I actually asked the people I was talking with, which were guests of our rental car business, but I actually asked them in the ChatGPT message that it was translating. I said, "How well does this tool translate? Do you understand it? Is it fluent?" And they're reading and they're like reading or listening because it'll also speak in a different language as well. And they'll be like, "Oh, yes, muy bueno, very good," something like that. And it's like, okay, cool. So it can speak other languages. So how do we want the tone to come across? Do we want it to be in a country accent? Do we want it to just be professional? I said in one prompt, academic, and then it started using like it was academic, but it sounded like snooty academic. Your nose is in the air and you're using unnecessarily big words so that people don't understand you or something. So it's like, okay, I want you to sound professional and academic, but you kind of sound snooty. Cut the unnecessarily big words like, and then give it a couple examples of the words you don't like, and then it'll tone it back. And so um, if you're just looking for a business email, but it's someone that you know well, hey, I want you to write, a polite, professional, but also warm and personal because I kind of know this person and we're on good terms. We're on first name basis. It will craft that tone for you. And so give it the tone of voice. If you're using this to write, I have worked with already one writer and she's using ChatGPT as a ghostwriter. And so she is training agents to um, basically craft the perfect tone of voice that she's looking for. And we were actually using examples of other authors and having ChatGPT sort of as a meta prompt, which we've discussed, or we will discuss, and using ChatGPT to sort of reverse engineer that writing and describe it, including the tone of voice. But that could also, in there could be, well, what person do you want it to write in? First person, second person? Is it loose second person or hard? I'm not a writer, so these words don't make sense to me, but these are some of the things that were coming up. Um, and so you want to specify how you want it to provide its output in a sort of tone. Thoughts or questions on that?
Well, I completely agree on this because tone of voice is very important when we're writing and um, when we're sending our message to our audience. So we always need to tailor it to the specific audience and specific situation, specific goals we need to achieve because sometimes we need to be, as we mentioned, academic. Sometimes we need to be like more the text to sound more personal, more emotional, or even to somehow, if it can imitate some emotion like sadness or excitement or anything, and that's extremely valuable, and it really has that personal touch that's um, kind of make the text sound more like um, more humane,
Mm-hmm.
more real. So that's very important.
Yeah, and I would agree, and I would actually build on that. Um, and one of the things that I am seeing more and more, and I'm incorporating this into the back end of this course as a test to see how it's going. Because we're not editing every single video and making them all perfect. But what I have realized is that most people, it seems, actually don't want a super polished everything's, all the foibles are edited out. People are kind of sick of that. People are not connecting with the people around them. People are feeling isolated. They're feeling alone. And all of these fancy companies with the big budgets have created this, and TikTok and, you know, every other place. It's like, well, look at my perfect life. And that has been so overplayed. It seems to me like people are getting sick of it. And this is also true with the Christian church. What do we do when we go to church? It's like everybody's got a happy face on, everybody's doing fine. I mean, unless it's a small church and you're actually doing life with them, you know, you go and it's a big show and the graphics are beautiful and they've got the instruments and all this stuff, and it's just kind of fake. And what happens with marketing is something comes in is new and it works really well. This is why I ascribe to contrarianism. And if you've watched, you know, any number of the videos, you guys, ladies, you know, um, like for example, when email came out, well, we got to brand our emails. And so all of the corporate emails looked super fancy and super professional. And at first people are like, oh, wow, these people must really be serious. These look good. But then after 10 years, from the early 2000s to the late 2000, like early 2010s, it's like, okay, hold on. Every time I get one of these emails that looks good, they're just asking me for money. They're just trying to get me to buy something. They're asking for my email and I'm getting signed up for spam lists. Like, this stinks. And then what do? Every time an email comes in that looks super fancy, you just send it to spam because you know what's coming. And now what do? Now you just send plain text emails and you write in first person. Plain text being, it just looks like a normal email sent by a person. That is now how you do email marketing, and you just scratch all the fancy design because it doesn't work anymore. Well, in my opinion, and you know, we'll see how it goes. Leave a message in the comments if you're watching this. But in my opinion, this whole look at my life, you know, isn't it perfect? That whole thing is going by the wayside, and I think people are getting really sick of it. And I think what people are looking for is authenticity. And in regard to ChatGPT, it writes very polished and very professional if you just let it go. And one of the things that I think that we're probably, as we move forward in marketing, and especially with blog writing, even Google's quality rater guidelines are saying, is there first person personal experiences in the articles? Because all these AIs are starting to release information and it's facts, but there's no connection for actual or real people. It's not, you're not reading a person's blog, you're just reading facts. And so the more authentic we can make it and the more sort of real we can make it, the better it is going to do. And so in regard to how do we tell the tone, wrapping this back around, and this was long-winded, but the tone of the AI, in most cases, I would say, and again, barring a very academic culture or some other reason it wouldn't be, but I think the baseline for your average consumer is probably going to be first person. Like, you know, this, you know, are you struggling with this? Well, in this article, I'm going to share with you how I overcame, and we're going to need to start training these agents on how to speak as if it's you, and then you are the one. And so, of course, you got to read through that and make sure that's actually authentic to you, but it can help you. It can help you write you faster than you could write you, if that makes sense. But I think that that is something in regard to tone that is going to start being the baseline. Is all of these AI agents are just going to pump out all of the content in the world that exists, and it's all just going to be a bunch of facts. And then people are really going to gravitate and be like, oh my gosh, is this a person actually just saying their first person experience? This is amazing. My guess is that trend will probably accelerate. Any thoughts or questions on that?
I completely agree on this because that's a huge trend exactly right now. It's not even in blog writing, also especially in social media, like video creation, everything. Uh, People just want more authentic content.
Yeah.
They don't want anything fancy. Even the algorithms of Instagram, TikTok, and other social media, they're
Hmm.
just pushing way ahead content that is longer form, that is more authentic, that just speaks from from the mind, from the heart of the person, and not
Hmm.
some raw data or some facts or anything that looks fancy and polished, but it doesn't have a deeper meaning.
Okay.
That's a huge trend right now.
Okay.
Everything to be just more genuine, more authentic.
Okay. Yeah. So, it sounds like, and why did we originally remove that authenticity? Because frankly, authenticity is not always the prettiest. Sometimes authenticity is a little bit ugly. I just filmed my buddy Juke and I just filmed the 1,000 ways to how to get your first 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, the whole course. And I was watching myself and I'm like, my goodness, like I've got to quit touching my face. I was telling you guys, hold me accountable and tell me to quit touching my face because I was watching that. I'm like, oh, I cannot post this. And then I'm like, what am I going to do? I'm over here talking about authenticity and then I won't post, the stuff I don't like, but that's not, of course it's getting posted. Um, but yeah, like authenticity isn't always pretty, but people are so sick of thinking everybody else is perfect. They actually want to see that people doing something are not perfect. So ugly is the new beautiful sort of thing. And I don't mean, like people just want to see our blemishes and know that we're real people too. And there's not going to be, how do you say this? I love that because the only people that are going to be able to actually fulfill that need are the people who are not insecure. So all of the people who are insecure and are removing their blemishes on social media and all this stuff, which I get, like, I was touching my face in this video and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is not okay. And then it's like, whatever, I'm going to get over my insecurity there. But it's only the people who are actually secure in who they are that are going to be able to do that and fulfill that need. And that's not going to be very many people. So, anyway, we'll wrap it back around to tone. We want to tell it the tone. And it seems like the baseline tone that we're going to want to go for is first person and authentic. We're going to want to at least train these AIs with our personal experiences and say, well, I'm actually working on a document right now of consulting experiences I've had with ministry leaders and the issues and the things that we found and the things we learned so that it can be pulling those into articles. They are really authentic and it also really, really speeds up the work process. So it kind of hits both wins. It's authentic and it's fast. So that's something we're thinking about, the tone of voice, the first, second, third person, however you want it to write. So with that, we'll call this video to a close. And in the next video, we're going to go into the ways in which we can provide examples. And that is going to be single shot and multi-shot prompting. So we'll get into that in just a second.